For those of you who are unfamiliar, Tony Perkins is the leader of a group called the Family Research Council, FRC, and it's actually a known hate group. It's listed as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, the SPLC, and I think he may be on the ADL website also. So I just wanted to take a quick glance at the SPLC website that talks about Family Research Council and Tony Perkins. This is him on screen, by the way, if you're unfamiliar with him. Let's just take a quick look at this SPLC website. The FRC often makes false claims about the LGBTQ community based on discredited research and junk science. The intention is to denigrate LGBTQ people as the organization battles against same-sex marriage, hate crime laws, anti-bullying programs, and the repeal of the military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. To make the case that LGBTQ community is a threat to American society, the FRC, which is Family Research Council, employs a number of policy experts, quote-unquote, whose research has allowed the FRC to be extremely active politically in shaping public debate. Its research fellows and leaders often testify before Congress and appear in the mainstream media. It also works at the grassroots level, conducting outreach to pastors in an effort to transform the culture. Needless to say, Family Research Council is high profile, it's a big deal, and it is downright destructive to society. So I want to give you a little taste of who leads it. Tony Perkins. This is the guy. This clip came out early February 2021. This is right after Biden was inaugurated. So give this one a listen, see what he had to say about Joe Biden.
These are challenging times. I am not going to put any kind of spin on it. The policies that are coming out of this administration are literally from the pit of hell.
You know, this may seem like a little thing, but this is religion and politics mixing, and this is the problem in society, no joke. Ultra-religious, ultra-nationalist, supposed patriots working their theology right into the American political system are causing massive amounts of problems in society. Keep listening.
Within hours of taking office, forcing you as a taxpayer to be involved in funding abortions, not just here in America, but around.
Not true. Not true in any sense of the term. There was one Trump-era executive order or policy or something that Biden reversed that he's really twisting to make that statement in the first place. He's twisting it out of proportion. But that's the nature of propaganda. Twist it until it's unrecognizable. That's what it's all about. And that's what we're watching, propaganda. This is him propagandizing to his audience.
The attack on religious freedom.
What attack on religious freedom? The most persecuted group in America, straight, white Christian men. I'm so sorry that you have to deal with being so persecuted.
The attack on our children with forcing schools, this transgenderism on elementary schools, secondary schools, colleges.
That's not happening. None of that is happening. At best, colleges are more accepting of everybody. That's it. They're not forcing anybody to be trans. Certainly not middle, elementary, or high schools. Has nothing to do with being trans. But this guy has deep-seated problems with the LGBT community. Remember that as we continue.
Our military has now become, once again, a laboratory for social experimentation.
How? He's twisting it out of proportion, making it out to be something that it's absolutely not. It's just propagandizing, plain and simple.
They're going to be teaching these pagan religions from the indigenous people and having the students actually go through these incantations and pray to these pagan gods.
See, the Family Research Council, led by Tony Perkins, is the start of a lot of this type of propaganda. He is the start of what's called the fire hose. Putin implemented this propaganda technique called the fire hose in 2014, and he's doing it again now in 2022. Throw out as much misinformation as you possibly can in all different forms and varieties. Come up with as many conspiracy theories as you can possibly come up with. Send them out in newspapers, on news broadcasts, in editorial pieces, have online influencers parrot them, spread them on Facebook, Twitter, every outlet you can possibly find to spread these conspiracy theories. Do it. And the ones that stick, repeat those the most. The ones that people seem to believe most reliably, those are the ones that you stick with. For example, Russia did this exact thing recently in 2022. They made claims about biolabs in Ukraine. There were a couple of others. I don't remember what they were now. Those stuck the best. You think those are the first ones Putin went with? No. Putin started out by calling Ukrainians Nazis. He said it's run by the Nazis or whatever. The whole government is. That one didn't stick, and he recognized that it didn't. So he started his fire hose. He started spreading all of these conspiracy theories about Ukrainians and their relationship to America and Great Britain and all that other stuff. And the ones that stuck are the ones that he started repeating the most. That's the fire hose of falsehoods. That's the name of the propaganda technique. And Tony Perkins and Family Research Council do this exact thing, this exact method. They come up with as many propagandistic claims as they possibly can, and they spread them through as many outlets as possible. On their Twitter account, on their Facebook, they spread them through online interviews and editorials and everything they can. And that's what he's doing right now. He's spreading a whole bunch of conspiracy theories and seeing which ones stick.
You know, we've seen idolatry in different forms, but now it is so blatant. I mean, we're in the 11th hour, and I believe America is in serious trouble.
After spreading propaganda, now he's spreading fear to make people more malleable and willing to accept that propaganda. This is the psychology behind mind control and manipulation.
We are literally shaking our fist in the face of God and challenging God. If you're really God, you do something.
Yes.
And he is God, and he will do something.
Been waiting for it for let's see, it's 1132, 2,000 years roughly by now. Yeah, 2,000 years we've been waiting for Jesus to come back. 2,000 years we've been waiting for God to punish everybody for all of their sinful nature or whatever else. Still waiting. Where's he at? Still waiting for him to stop all of the evil and suffering in the world. Still waiting for him to cure cancer, to end world hunger. Still waiting. Jesus' disciples believed it was going to happen in their day. We're 2,000-something years past it now. Where's he at? Back in November 2021, Ronna McDaniels is, I believe, the head of the RNC, like the Republican National Committee or Convention or whatever else. She tweeted out on some Twitter account some general support for the LGBT movement, because there's this group called the Log Cabin Republicans. It's a group of gay Republicans or LGBT Republicans who vote for Republican candidates every time, right? And Ronna McDaniels tweeted out her support for the LGBT movement. She said something like, it's a big tent and we want everybody under it, so if you're gay, then come on under and vote with us. Politically, a sound move. It's a good idea politically. Draw in more voters. Why would you marginalize and isolate a community that could be handing candidates to you, honestly? Completely ridiculous for the Republican Party to be against the LGBT community. Well, guess who didn't like that very much when Ronna McDaniel did that? Tony Perkins. He threw a little bit of a fit over the fact that Ronna McDaniels was trying to draw in new LGBT voters. He doesn't want them to be a part of this at all. Listen to this. He goes on this radio show, Tony Perkins does, and he says this, November 2021.
There's a lot of RNC members in leadership positions that are upset about this because they were not told. This was something that Ronna did on her own. Quite frankly, I think it's time for her to take up something else.
I believe Ronna McDaniels had done something very similar in previous years for Pride Month. It was like around June, I think, or something. She had come out and said, you know, we want you to vote for us, or we want you to vote along with us, LGBT community. Just expressing the most basic, straightforward, simple support for the LGBT community. Just enough to get their votes. That's it. And the guy's throwing a fit over it.
And leave the party to those who I think can chart a path forward, restore what has been lost, and make sure that the Republicans, the conservatives, regain the majority both in Congress and continue to see victories and gains in states across the nation.
So she needs to step down, is what you're saying?
I think so. Yeah, I think she needs to step down. I think she has outlived her purpose at the RNC.
What was it he said a second ago? Listen to this again.
I think can chart a path forward, restore what has been lost.
What's been lost? What did we lose as a society by LGBT people being more accepted? Can you tell me what we've lost? Is this one of those we want to go back to the 1950s again things where black people were drinking from colored-only water fountains? Is that the kind of era that you're aiming to go back to, Tony? I don't understand. What else could that possibly mean? Early May 2021. Check out what he had to say to his little set of buddies here.
We should be, happy warriors. We were created for this.
This warrior language kind of disturbs me. I hear this a lot. Using warlike language like this type of rhetoric is truly dangerous, and it is the type of thing that leads to civil wars. I don't know that we're going to be in a civil war in the United States, but I can tell you this. They certainly, like Republicans, they believe we are. They believe that they're going to enter a civil war. As a matter of fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Louis Gohmert actually showed up a while back at some office to protest in favor of January 6th political prisoners of war, quote unquote. That's what they called them. Political prisoners of war.
And then these pretrial January 6th defendants have been held months on end, being abused as political prisoners of war by not only federal judges, prosecutors at the Department of Justice, but also the D.C. jail where Kathleen Landerkin is probably still the deputy warden, and she says herself how much she hates Republicans, hates Trump, and hates the people that are being held in the jail.
If Marjorie Taylor Greene and Louis Gohmert really do believe that they're prisoners of war, that means they really do believe that we are currently in a civil Cold War right now. That is where this type of warrior language that Tony Perkins is using right now, that's where it leads us. We're already at this point now. We were already there by May 2021 when this clip came out. I'm just saying this is a direct result of this type of language right here.
So it wasn't like this is just something that happens to fall upon us at this moment. Yeah. We were created to be warriors for Christ, especially as men. We're to lead our families as warriors. Now, that terminology has been, maligned by the culture that we're, these, Christian warriors from a standpoint of we're trying to take over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. That is how I'm taking it. Should I be taking it differently?
Trying to take over the world. Yeah, we are. The kingdom.
Okay, I guess I was correct then. I guess I am right to be concerned about the fact that you're using this language. It seems like I was right from the start. You're not alleviating my concerns here, Tony.
The kingdom.
Yeah, from a
the kingdom of
aspect.
God. We want to see everyone come to the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ and experience the abundant life. And that means we're going to have to wage warfare.
I don't know this for a fact. I just feel it's true. I have to imagine a very similar conversation took place directly before the Crusades. This sounds like something the Crusaders would say. No joke.
We're going to have to, and it's not physical warfare. It's not the weapons of our warfare, as Bert said, they're not carnal, but they're spiritual for the tearing down.
Okay, well, that alleviated my fears a little bit. However, unfortunately, your audience seemed to take it very differently up to this point. And as I said, the right already believes that we're in a civil war. They already believe that they are literally at war with the left. In fact, they have demonized us, anybody to the left of the homeless for sport. They believe that anybody to the left of that is not just somebody with a different political view, but subhuman, different than them, fundamentally different, possessed by demons. That is where this type of language leads people. That headspace is where you end up when you use language like this. Now, I understand he just slipped this into the middle of this big, long talk.
As Bert said, they're not carnal, but they're spiritual.
I get that he just slipped that right in the middle. But all the way up to now, you've been talking about waging war on anybody who doesn't think like you. And guess where we are now? People are literally referring to the January 6th defendants as political prisoners of war now. I believe that's a result of a steep increase in this type of language used by people on the right.
So we shouldn't make any apologies about that. In fact, we should embrace it, that God has entrusted us with this generation to be courageous for him in taking truth and light into dark places where deception reigns, so that men, women, and children can know him and experience not only eternal life, but the fullness of life right here and now.
I feel like this one was an example of the mask slipping. You know, every now and then you hear these pastors say something really, really out there that I honestly can't even believe they're saying publicly. Like, I have no doubt they're saying this behind closed doors. No doubt about it. But coming out and saying this publicly is honestly a little bit of a surprise. Like, you would think that they wouldn't want people like me hearing them saying this stuff, using this type of language, saying, yeah, they are trying to take over the world. Yeah, they are trying to wage war and stuff like that. But here we are, sure enough, sitting here listening to it. Listen to this next example of the mask slipping. This one was mid-June 2021.
Conservatives, by the way, have been on the ascendancy in Congress in the last, I've been here almost 20 years. I'm good to be the old guy in the room. But what's happened is that we've seen the Republican Party go from a moderate party to a very conservative party, where we are very close to seeing true constitutionalist conservatives in control of the Republican Party in Congress. We no longer have a single pro-choice Republican in the ranks of the Republican. They're all pro-life. At least they give to differing degrees. That is a big change that's taken place in the last 10 years.
Yeah, it seems to me that what he's saying here is he recognizes how polarized the country has become, and he revels in that. He's glad. He's happy about it. He's proud of it. He knows that he was at least partly to blame for this kind of extremism popping up, this polarization popping up and driving a wedge right down the middle of everything and everybody in the United States. This is one of the guys that doesn't really have a terribly public face. Like, he's not super public and out there and all over everything like Trump is, for example. But he is in the background at all times, coming up with new angles of attack, new propaganda methods, new ideas, spreading that fire hose of falsehood all over the place. He's always in the background, and he has been for like decades. And that brings us to our most recent clip, early May 2022. He has a new plan of attack. Listen to this one.
I don't think we should abandon the public schools. I encourage young people who want to go into the teaching profession to see the public schools as a mission field. We cannot abandon it. We need to run for the school board. We need to be teachers. We need to be administrators, but we don't need to sacrifice our children.
So he's saying, as evangelicals, people shouldn't really be sending their kids to public schools. They should be homeschooling them or sending them to Christian private schools. But there's a twist to it. Keep listening.
I am not saying we abandon the public schools. Too many kids are going to continue to go there, but it shouldn't be our kids. We should send our kids as teachers and instructors.
Amen.
So he wants people to send their kids to Christian private schools or homeschool them in ideal situations and train them to be teachers so they can go in to public schools and start teaching there and propagandize to the children. This is the evangelical plan. He is part of it. In fact, he's running it in a lot of ways. He has always been in the background pulling strings since the very beginning.